Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining the Wednesday's online Bhagavad Gita class from ISKCON of Silicon Valley, Mountain View. Thank you again for taking time from your busy schedule to join this class. Thanks a lot again. Today, we'll be discussing our topic for today is practicing ultimate goal. So, what is ultimate goal? And what does it mean even to practice an ultimate goal? Because all goals are about achieving a state we want to reach. So what does it mean by practicing ultimate goal? So let it remain suspense. We'll do few things. The first thing I would like to do is I would like to make sure that I go and post some messages on our online Facebook and YouTube. The devotees who have joined from there. Then we will sing a very nice kirtan. I'm not a good kirtanier, so please bear with me. I'll try my best. A song, Jai Radha Madhav, which was very dear to our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. Then we'll do the Mangalacharan prayers, and then we'll go to the topic of the day, practicing ultimate goal. Okay, now we are all set from the logistics point of view. So let's go to the kirtan. So let's share my screen. This song Jai Radha Madhav is very dear to our ISKCON founder, Srila Prabhupada, and it is taken from Gitavali. This song, actually the translation is, Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Raja and the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, and the beloved son of Mother Yasoda. He delights the inhabitants of Raja and wanders in the forests along the banks of the river Yamuna. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari जय যমুনা তীরবনচারী জয় কুঞ্জ বিহারী জয় রাধা মাধব জয় কুঞ্জ বিহারী জয় রাধা মাধব জয় কুঞ্জ বিহারী হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে হরে. Now, devotees, we are going to sing the Mangalacharan prayers. As the name suggests, Mangala auspicious. So this helps us in whatever endeavor we are doing in the spiritual path. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they sing these prayers to invoke blessings from the previous acharyas and Krishna and the previous devotees, the dearmost devotee of Lord Krishna, which is Radharani. So we try to invoke their blessings. So, whatever spiritual endeavor we are going, we will be successful. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vande aham Sri Guru Sri Yuttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nitai Namene Che Namirahate Shraddha Mule Nam Dite Che Nitai Namene Che Namirahate Shraddha Mule Nam Dite Che Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So devotees, we just now sang Jai Radha Madhav, and we sang the Mangalacharan prayers to invoke the blessings of previous acharyas. Now we'll come to the topic of today, practicing ultimate goal. So before we go to ultimate goal, we discuss what goal is, okay, and what are the different types of goals in this world people typically aspire for, and why they aspire for that. And there is always a reason, okay, why we do things, although sometimes they are subconscious, and sometimes those reasons come from our baser instincts. But there is always a reason. So what are the different types of goals people aspire for? People aspire for goals like they want to become all powerful, like the president of a nation, or maybe CEO of a company, right, running over thousands of employees, or amassing a lot of wealth. Maybe also some of them aspire to become very beautiful, right, or handsome, right, to attract a lot of people just by their appearances, by their charm, right? Or they may aspire to become very strong person, very powerful, very strong person, so that people fear him or her, okay? Or they may aspire to become all renounced because they think that, and the people in the world normally respect a renounced person, right? So they want to renounce everything, go away everything, go to the Himalayas, and then the people flock, right? So for them, that renunciation doesn't give them happiness. What gives them happiness is that they are able to attract people through their renunciation, right? So these are the different goals people aspire for. I talked about the goals, if you might have noticed. They're all like we normally aspire to Lord Krishna, that he is all powerful, all famous. Oh, the famous, I missed famous. So there are people who like to become famous, and you become famous by any of these other attributes also, right? Which I just now discussed, like all powerful or all wealthy, right? So the question is, at a very fundamental level, what drives us? What drives us to aspire for these goals? we feel that when we achieve these goals, we'll be happy. That's the main reason. That's the reason we do all these things, that we'll be happy by becoming all powerful. And when others are fearful of me, I'll be happy. When I'm famous, I will be able to attract so many people. I'll be happy. When I'm so full of so much of wealth, then I can buy anything. I can get anything in this world, so I will be happy. But unfortunately, just if you look at the history, the known history of the world, not a single person had ever been able to stay in those states, those goals that they were thinking about life forever. There were some brief intermittent period they were able to achieve, like maybe you can say Hitler, or many of the kings in the past in the Vedic scriptures, right? They had a complete dominion over the whole of earth, right? But they left this world voluntarily, involuntarily. Even Lord Krishna, just to show as an example, he could have been in this world forever, even now. He left this world, right? He left this world just to show as an example. Okay, he didn't have to. He was all powerful. He is the supreme. But just as an example that everything has an end in this world. And he says in Bhagavad Gita very clearly, Asasatam is the nature of this world. Asasatam dukhalayam. The asasatam aspect is what I'm discussing here. That is what Lord Krishna says. That is the nature of this world. Nothing is permanent. But coming back to our topic, the reason why people want to achieve those goals is because they think that will make them happy. So in ultimate sense, what they're trying to achieve is actually happiness. They want happiness. And they think these things will give them happiness. But the nature of the world is such that those happiness are fleeting. They don't stay. They are not permanent. So if the goal is happiness, right, then the question comes, first question comes that why these goals don't make us happy, okay? And then the question comes, is there anything that can make us happy, right? Forever, of course, that's the point. We have to be happy. That is the soul actually wants to be happy forever, eternally happy. Now, this world, for some people, it's frustration from the beginning to end. But for some people, they do achieve this, but still it ends in frustration, okay, or death. So it is not permanent. It is not forever. So that's the second question. Is there anything like that? And that's where we consult, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the words spoken by Lord Krishna himself to Arjuna. And he says there, and that is what we'll focus, and that is also the chapter we are reading this month, which is the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, devotional service. Okay. That is, the goal is not actually a state. It is not a place or a position. The goal is a process. In the beginning, that process might seem very burdensome. The devotional service might seem very burdensome because, and the reason is this, the soul by nature actually wants to engage, not wants to, is naturally happy with devotional service. But because of the millions of lifetimes in the past, they had been seeing the world through the lens of the body and the mind they get. They are so associated. The association of the soul with its body and mind is like a intense movie going on in the hall. And sometimes the onlookers or the audience, when looking at the characters, they imagine themselves to be those characters. Sometimes you might have seen some Hindi movies where, the hero and heroine is looking at hero and heroine on the screen, and they are dancing, and they feel that they are dancing. They themselves are dancing, right? The movie, so this, our association with the body and mind is like that. We have our own form in the spiritual world, but because of the association with the form of the material world, we start thinking that that form is me actually, and we forget our old form. And it's a movie which runs from our birth to the death. It's a very long movie. Okay, everyone's life is nothing but a long movie. Okay, from the birth till the death. And then when you die with the consciousness which you die, you again take another birth. Because of this association of so many bodies throughout millions of lifetimes, we think that that is we who are, basically. We forget our old actual identity, okay, that we are part and parcel of Krishna. We forget that. And that is what gives us unhappiness. Even if we achieve some fleeting, due to achieving some goal, we get some fleeting happiness, we lose it. Because wherever there is the ultimate goal, ultimate purpose is not Krishna, who is permanent, who is supreme, the goals also will be temporary. Those goals will also be temporary. Where the goal is Krishna, that goal will also be permanent, because Krishna is permanent. His association is permanent. That is why that should be our ultimate goal. Does that mean that we should not have these other goals? Yes, we should. We don't need to have these other goals, but should we endeavor for them? If that helps you, in practicing that ultimate goal, then yes. If it helps you in practicing that ultimate goal, then yes, you should. If you think that you want to amass a lot of wealth because you need to make so many temples where the living entities throughout the world, they can come and be happy. They get immersed. They can get immersed in a world where every word is a song and every step is a dance. That's spiritual world. That's what is described in Brahma Samhita. Brahmadev is describing that in Brahma Samhita. That's the nature of the spiritual world. It is Chintamani Dham. Whatever you think, that's what it becomes. There is no effort, extraneous effort needed. There are kalpa vriksha. There are trees which full of desires. They are desire trees. Whatever you desire, the tree will give you. We're there, but everyone is engaged in serving Krishna, in devotional service, along with other devotees. There is no conflict. There is no disagreement there. Why? Because the center is one, Krishna. We want to please him. We want to serve him, right? So everyone, if he has to take a, behind the scene role, he's fine, because Krishna is happy. Sometimes Radharani is more happy when she is able to engage, bring the other gopis closer to Krishna. She is ready. There is no conflict there in spiritual world, right? So that is why that should be ultimate goal. And why that remains? That remains is because Krishna is permanent. His devotional service to him, therefore, is permanent. And therefore, the ecstasy, the happiness we get from it is permanent. But how that ultimate goal has to be practiced? That's the question. And that is what we are going to read. Fortunately, this chapter in Bhagavad Gita, devotional service, is very small. So we are going to read along with the brilliant purports given by Srila Prabhupada. We'll simply read through. Intermittently, we'll see if there are any questions or reflections. And I hope you will also enjoy with me. So let me share. I hope devotees, you can see this. See the screen. So devotional service. Devotional service, the reason why it is called service is because you need to, there are two persons here. One is the devotee and another is the person that to whom the devotion is directed, the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? And they need to exchange. Because let us say, two lovers, they're just sitting there, just sitting, staring at them. They're not speaking to each other. They are not exchanging any gifts, nothing. Then there is no love. There is no exchange of love. Right? So you need to have some service. You need to engage yourself. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is described why the ecstasy becomes unlimited. It's a very nice way they have described it. They're saying when the devotees in spiritual world, they serve Lord Krishna in different ways, through their ornaments, through their dance, through their song, through the, the food they bring to him. When they serve, Krishna becomes very happy because all of that with mixed with tons of love. It is not just, I will get something out of it from Krishna. No, I want to see Krishna happy. That love is there. It's filled with love. And so Krishna becomes happy and he smiles. When he smiles, his smile is brilliant. Krishna's smile in the Vedic scriptures has been described as so beautiful that even the Kamdev, the god of love, even he feels shy. It's million times, Cupid, actually the actual word, English word is Cupid, is million times more attractive than Cupid. And so when the devotees, they see the smile in Krishna's face, they serve him more. And Krishna becomes more happy. And they serve him more. And the Krishna becomes more happy. So the ecstasy of the devotees keeps on multiplying more and more. Okay. So and it goes into an unlimited level. And because Krishna is permanent, there is no cessation in that ecstasy in the spiritual world. Okay. So the devotional service is actually the point I was making. The devotional service is all about exchange between Krishna and his devotee. Okay. But let us start. Actually, wonderful thing about Bhagavad Gita is it starts with questions. Krishna does not feel challenged when his question is asked. In the material world, if you ask a difficult questions to someone who is very knowledgeable, he may feel, threatened. But because Krishna is all knowledgeable, one of his opulence, whatever we can think of, he has the answer. So he doesn't have to feel threatened, right? Arjuna, in fact, asks many challenging, he puts questions in very sarcastic ways. But Krishna understands. Krishna, knows that, the Arjuna's position, the distress is going through, and he clarifies all those. So this also starts with a question. So let's read the first verse. Arjuna uvacha evam satata yukta ye bhaktas tvam paryupasate ye chapi aksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittama. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So in the spiritual circle, this is a classic question everyone asks. Okay. Should I worship a personal form or should I worship Nirakar Brahma? Okay. Which is the best? So Arjuna is asking which is more perfect. Okay. Both are perfect. That is why Arjuna's question is very diplomatic. He is not saying worshipping impersonal Brahman is imperfect. That is also perfect. This is also perfect. But which one is more perfect? Okay. It's a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Let's read it. Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalists, and the other is personalists. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Okay. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. So the personalists and the impersonalists see the absolute truth differently. But it is the Param Satya or absolute truth is the same. Okay. But they see it differently. The personalists see the absolute truth as a person, that everything came from a person. Even the Nirakar Brahma or Brahma Jyoti came from that person, Krishna. In the end of 14th chapter, the last verse, if you read, Krishna says, I established that Brahman, which gives immense joy. Okay. Arjuna here is questioning, okay, which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth. But Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga or devotional service to him is the highest of all. It is most direct and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. We have to understand when Srila Prabhupada came to America, there were all kinds of things happening in America, right? So the hippie movement and all. So you will see many places in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has taken things that are going to be described later and put that in the purport. And the reason he might have done that is if a person, gets impatient, even after reading the first verse, the purport of the first verse, still he may get, benefit out of it. And that's the reason why he did that. So sometimes you can call it like, he spoiled the suspense, but, he did that intentionally because we are not actually watching a movie. It is a serious business. Reading Bhagavad Gita is a serious business. With this, the main purpose of reading Bhagavad Gita is we want to see the world the way it is, okay, and then give a direction to our life. That's the main purpose of reading Bhagavad Gita. And that's why Srila Prabhupada did that. Anyway, so there are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga or devotional service to him is the highest of all. It is the most direct and it is the easiest means. Okay, there is another thing he said, Lord Krishna here, you will read, is also the easiest means for association with the Godhead. Okay. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not the material body. He is a spiritual spark, and the absolute truth is the spiritual whole. So the same concept, part and parcel, right? We are spiritual spark, which is part and parcel of the ultimate spiritual whole or spiritual fire, okay, which is Krishna, or the absolute truth. In the 7th chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the supreme whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Then again in the 8th chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna. And at the end of the 6th chapter, Lord clearly said that of all yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization. Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahmajyotir. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. Okay? And there may be different reasons for that. Okay? The one reason is it could be the pride. Okay. Second reason could be that I can become God. Right? I can become God. So Krishna was just a powerful person. Okay. I can also become a powerful person like that. These desires in the heart could potentially translate into that kind of conception. Many times you will find people, they have some inner belief and they use some mundane reasoning or any reasoning. Sometimes they use reasoning from the scriptures to support, justify what they are saying. Okay. They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. And so factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists. Now, Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he's clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna, 11th chapter is the universal form where Krishna showed his time form which pervades throughout the universe. And then finally when Arjuna said, I'm really afraid of seeing this form, because he saw that from his form, the fire is coming and all the soldiers of the battlefield are going inside that fire. So he was really perturbed and very fearful in seeing that form. So he prayed to Lord Krishna that show me your four-armed form and ultimately your two-armed form. So when he saw that, then he was very peaceful. He also understood that everything from that description, from that display or the vision, he understood that Krishna is everywhere. He is everything. So there is nothing else basically it is a vivid description of who Krishna is, how he is everywhere. So we don't need any more proof, right, that he is that supreme God. And then he was happy with his two-armed form, right? He was happy to see his two-armed form, right? So that is what he's saying. 11th chapter, that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could understand that all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth. Okay. This is a long purport. So just I'd like to stop here and ask if there are any questions. Otherwise, we'll go to the on the Zoom if there are any questions. If not, then I will keep reading the verses. And I also like to check the Facebook and YouTube. If there are any questions there? Okay, there are no questions. So we'll go back to the verses. Okay. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Mai Aveshya Mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate Shraddhaya paryayopetyas te me yukta tamamata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, very direct answer. Okay. Those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. Right. In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants, sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna, or sometimes he cooks prasadam, or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna, or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. So, what Lord Krishna explained, that the direct translation, we may not get it. Like, we may not be able to map it to our activities. But here Srila Prabhupada beautifully describes all the different activities we typically go and do in the temple falls under this category. Okay. And if we do it all the time, 24 hours a day, then we are actually in samadhi. Okay. 24 hours a day, samadhi. It needs a lot of sacrifice. It needs a lot of sacrifice of our own thoughts, the expectations we have built for ourselves, the expectations others have built for us. There are many things involved. That concoction that got prepared over many, many lifetimes and many years in this lifetime, sacrificing that is not that easy. Okay. And it may not be practical also. Okay. But at least we know the benchmark. So this is the benchmark of, this purport. If you read clearly, it shows that is the benchmark. That is what, Lord Krishna is talking about when, fixing their minds on personal form and engaged in worshipping him. Ye tva aksharam anirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamma chintyam cha kutastham chalam dhruvam shanniyam yendriya gramam sarvatra shamabuddhaya te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta iterata. But those, now Lord Krishna is talking about those who worship the absolute truths, impersonal form. Okay. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, this is the most difficult part. You are worshipping something which you cannot perceive. That's the most difficult part. The all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable. The impersonal conception of the absolute truth. And how do you worship? By controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone. Such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Bhunam janmanamante. Okay. Vasudevam sarvamiti. When they come to that conclusion that ultimately it is Vasudev, okay, then they look for Vasudev. Where will you look for Vasudev? Where the Vasudev's devotees are there. Right? So you come in contact with a Vasudev's devotee, and then he takes you to the Vasudeva. So that is what Lord Krishna means when he says, at last achieve me. Okay. If they keep in that impersonal conception, they will not achieve Krishna. Right? It is like if someone is standing in front of you and turns on the torchlight, okay, in the dark, you cannot see him, see that person, right? He can see you, but you cannot see him. So if you want to see him, even in the dark, some part of his face is visible, he has to turn off the light, right? Because the torchlight is so brilliant that you cannot see his face, right? So bright. It's like the same thing in Ishopanishad, right? The devotee is telling that, oh Lord, please, that Hiranmaya Patra, which you have put in front of your face, please take it off, that Brahmajyoti, because I am not able to see your beautiful face, right? So that is what happens. They're not able to see him, not able to see Krishna. Those who do not directly worship Supreme Godhead Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal. Sri Krishna, after many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. Vasudevam Sarvamiti. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. That is why you will see the people who follow this path, they open a lot of hospitals, a lot of charitable endeavor. They do all these things because that's what Lord Krishna is saying. You have to engage in this, in the welfare of all beings. Okay, how can you find me? You cannot find me in something impersonal always. You have to focus on something personal, because that is how you are designed. That is how Krishna designed us, basically. Our body and minds are designed like that, to always conceive of something, some object. We need an object, right? Even the goals, what we think are actually visualization of either one object or multiple objects. That's what the goal is. It's a vision, it's a visual. In the visual frame, we see certain, maybe if it is all powerful, we'll see that, we have a lot of muscles and all the people. So it is an object, okay? Or if you are like, famous, then you will see you are surrounded by, you have a vision that you are being called in, CNN and other places. They want to know your point of view and all. You are very famous, right? So you immediately conjure up, there has to be some object, okay? So you visualize your goal. That is how we are designed. If one approaches Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to, okay, so we read this, sorry. Engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. Right? So, as part of the impersonal conception, meditating on super soul is also part of that impersonal worship. Okay, because there are two aspects to impersonal reality. One is the existence, another is that existence is in motion. That existence is dynamic, it is changing. There is a motion in that existence. No motion is possible if there is no consciousness. And that is why there has to be Atman. That Atman is the super soul, the Paramatma. So Brahman worship includes the worship of Paramatma. Okay? Or the impersonal worship, sorry. The impersonal worship includes the worship of Paramatma. Okay. Klesho adhika taraste sam avyakta shakta chetasham avyakta hi gatir dukham deva dehavadvir avapyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. This is what we are discussing sometimes. Because we are embodied, we think that impersonal feature also in terms of some bodies. But that is contradictory. On the one hand, you are saying it does not have any form, and on the other hand, to worship it, you are giving it a form. So that is contradictory, and that is why it becomes very troublesome. You're contradicting your own conception, right? But let's see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. The group of the transcendentalists to follow the path of the inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Gyan Yogis. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here the difference between Gyan Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Gyan Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome. Whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. And that is what we are discussing some time back, right? We take one body, leave it, take another body, right? We are so attached to these bodies that we were embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. You just tell him, oh, you are not the body, you are soul. It's not possible. It is like just now what I said. Our association with our body and mind is like a movie which started with our birth, a very intense movie which started from our birth and it ends when we die. Okay, just like in a dark movie hall, the only thing we are absorbed in is what is happening in the screen, and we associate ourselves with those characters. Same thing is our association with our body and mind. It is very hard for us to dissociate from that body, that he is not this body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, here Srila Prabhupada is cautioning, it's not the same thing like any body. Worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that the worship may be saguna or nirguna, of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, it is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. Why? Because it is Supreme Lord's energy. So he can convert material energy into spiritual energy and spiritual energy into material energy. It is the same energy. Okay. When that energy he separates, that becomes material energy. When he brings that energy under his control, the same energy becomes spiritual energy. Right? So it is not actually those vigraha forms and not material. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street. I like this example a lot. And if we post our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But if you put any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere, but which is not authorized by the post office, will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archa Vigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee. And not only accepts, he also reciprocates, just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life, right? To the devotees who are advanced, he reciprocates also, like we don't have time to go into, but like the Khirachara Gopal, right? In Khirachara Gopal, that when he was taking away that, that pot from Krishna's hand, it kind of splashed, and that hot kheer got into Krishna's body, right? So he reciprocates also with his devotees. It is not that he's only accepting the service. He also reciprocates. So for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly, right? While the impersonalist is still imagining what the Supreme could be, it is so easy for a devotee. He already can see Supreme in the front, and he approaches and he serves him. End of story, right? But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads. And they have to learn the language, means he's talking about Sanskrit, understand the non-perceptual feelings. Sanskrit is a difficult language in the sense one word, depending on the context, can mean different things. The same Atma can mean Atma, it can also mean body, it can mean the mind, it can mean intelligence. So you have to really understand from the context what the Atma means in that particular context. So Sanskrit is a difficult language. Understand the non-perceptual feelings. The feelings, can you imagine, it's sort of contradictory, like you're feeling, but you're not able to perceive it. What kind of feeling is that, right? So you have to understand that. And then you have to realize all these processes. It's not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the devotee, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, called prasadam, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalists, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said there that if one ultimately has to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti. But instead takes the troubles to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman and spends his whole life in that way, the result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization, because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. What? This is the final conclusion. A living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature. But the blissful portion is not realized. See, the impersonal Brahmajyoti, the bliss that they describe, if you talk to those people, they will describe they're getting bliss. But that is not actually the bliss. That is the happiness based on peace, santi. Okay? That is what they're describing as bliss. That is the absence of pain of the material world, but not the presence of happiness of the spiritual world. Okay? Because they have taken such a troublesome path, they find that peace as bliss. So that bliss portion is, actual bliss portion is not realized in that path. By the grace of some devotees, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble. So this is another reason why it is advised not to follow that path. Now, even if you have an association of a devotee, you know that old concepts you have in your mind will come and block you to wholeheartedly devote to this devotional service, because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, the embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. Sachidanandaha Swarup of a living entity, it is against that. That is because there is no ananda. There is Sat Chit, but there is no ananda. one should not take up this process for every living and individual living entity. The process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotional service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism. Okay, that is another danger, that they may become atheist. Why they may become atheist? Because even if they take to the devotional service, because of that old conception, they are not able to really wholeheartedly take the devotional service. So the Lord also not reciprocating with them. So they get frustrated in the devotional service and they leave devotional service. So now they have left the impersonal path, impersonal worship, they have left the personal worship also. So now they think that there is nothing like God, Brahman is all this is, falsehood, and they become complete atheist. So these are the dangers of following the impersonal path. Thus the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. Because in this age, the objects are constantly changing, old objects going away, new objects coming, right? You see that this technology is just a tool for bringing more and more objects in front of us. So we are always in that personal, a consciousness in which we are trapped by object in today's world. So it is not advised by Lord Krishna. So I will stop again here and see if there are any questions, anyone, or any comments, any feedback. Please share. Hare Krishna, Kautu Karuna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Ashraya Prabhu, Dandvat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhu. I like so many points. Thank you for taking us through this chapter. First of all, I liked how you brought up the point of different goals. Everybody has different goals in this world, and there are 6 different goals that we have: fame, renunciation, beauty, wealth. But the goal is to get happiness out of them. However, the world is shashwat, it is not eternal. So they do not give us ultimate happiness. But if they are connected to Krishna, for example, one can earn a lot of wealth and make a temple where devotees can come and discuss about Krishna, then it becomes a source of happiness. So I really like that the contrast between the two. Both are the goals, but one goal is connected to material world, so it does not give happiness, and the other one does. So that was very nice, Prabhu. And I have 2 more reflections if you like.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Another one I liked, Prabhu, how you mentioned that Arjuna is asking the question to Krishna about which is more perfect, because both are perfect, but which is more perfect. So Krishna is all knowledgeable. He is not afraid of any difficult questions, like ordinary people are, because they are not all knowledgeable. But when Krishna is speaking, then we can ask any question and it will be answered. So that was very nice. And third reflection I like, Prabhu, that when you mentioned at last achieve me, you mentioned about impersonalists, that they at last achieve Krishna, but that at last happens when they meet a devotee. So bahunam janmanam ante gyanvan mam prabhadyate. It happens after many lifetimes. So I really like that detail, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. These are all realizations from Srila Prabhupada only. So not my realizations. I'm just repeating them. But thank you for summarizing. Thanks a lot, Prabhu. Yes, Meera Mataji, you wanted to share something, please.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I also like the fact, the goal, when you in the beginning you said the goal is a process. But because we have been embodied for so long, we are so much associating everything with the material world and this material body. So I actually think that was really nice to know, because sometimes it's really hard to put words. We don't even think that, oh, the goal is a process. I never thought of it, that the goal is a process, until you said it today. So thank you very much for mentioning it like that. And even if we come, I'm very, very grateful that I can attend these classes, and in whatever way I can. And even with getting an association with the devotees, still it's such a slow process. And I hope it feels like, oh, there's still so much more to go.
Mataji, this is how I see, basically, and actually this is not how I see. This is how Srila Prabhupada said that anyone, okay, even comes once in the temple, Lord Krishna's temple, right, or associates anyhow with the devotional service, right, just like you are listening, he's a devotee of Krishna. There are a lot of people there are a lot of things that are happening in YouTube and online here and there. You could have chosen to go anywhere, but you chose to come here, right? That so that Krishna has a special mercy on you. Krishna is looking at you. Otherwise, everything in this world happens with his permission, when he is a super soul in your heart, in my heart. Everything is happening with his permission. He is permitting, that is why it is happening. We may be thinking, I am doing. Okay, but we are not the doers, actually. He is the real doer. So that means he has his eyes on you, and you should not feel dejected. You don't know if it is a long way to go, or if it is, suddenly you will find in front of your house, a chariot came from Vaikuntha to pick you up. Well, hey, let's go to Vaikuntha. Okay. Now from tomorrow you are going to Vaikuntha. You don't know. You just don't know.
Oh, thank you
Krishna, you
so
don't.
much.
You never
You
know. You never
explained
know
it so
Krishna.
well.
Yeah, you never know
Thank
Krishna.
you.
So
I really appreciate it, your
yeah, you should
explanation.
never think like that. Most important thing is that that greed what you have, that patience what you have in your heart for Krishna, that should remain. That is the main thing. And you don't have to really do devotional service to show off to others. You do devotional service from your capability. Remember, it is the Krishna should look at you. That is the most important thing. So to your best capacity, you do your devotional service, and that's good enough. Krishna will take care. So don't worry about whether it's a long way to go or not. We don't know what is long way. That only
That's
Krishna
right.
knows. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciated your answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, I will quickly check online, and most probably, I think it's already 8:08. I was thinking I will read all the purport and everything, but maybe we'll just go through the verses and translation. But let me check online if there are any comments or anything there. Okay. Yes, one Prabhuji is writing. Dhanyavad, thank you for this clarification of Mayavadi Santi versus the happiness of devotion and seva, and in the temporary nature of objects versus the eternal prem in service to Lord. Okay. Thank you, Shiva Fan Acharya Prabhu, uh, for mentioning that. Yes. So, the service, as I said, I'll repeat again, the service to Lord Krishna, either in this world or in the spiritual world, is actually full of happiness. And this happiness is, the foundation is not peace. The foundation is ecstasy, pleasure, happiness due to pleasure. You get pleasure out of that service. Okay. So now let me go back to the verses. Controls. Okay. Ye tu sarvani karmani mai shanyasa matkara anyanye naiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesamaham samudhata mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha mai aveshita chetasham. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So this is another reassuring aspect, that if you do all this, then he is the swift deliverer. And I think same thing Lord Srila Prabhupada has repeated in this purports also. When Lord Krishna is describing it, the way it is translated, it would seem that we have to sit in one place and have a small hut, and then, the deity of Krishna and serve him. That is that imagine. That is what I was talking about. We think in terms of, we visualize things, right? Whenever we listen, we visualize based on our conception. But Srila Prabhupada has clarified that in previous purport, it doesn't have to be that way. You can be your current position and still do devotional service like this. When you are going to work with the intention that the wealth I will get, I will dedicate to Lord Krishna, in serving Lord Krishna, in spreading his word, spreading the message of his dear devotees, then you are doing this, basically what Lord Krishna is telling here. And then he will deliver you from the ocean of birth and death. And not in any life, maybe in this life, okay? Or maybe in next life. Okay? Many times what happens is Lord Krishna, what he does is he takes you to the next life, he takes you to a universe where he is doing his lila, his Krishna lila. So that there you don't have any scope of thinking any other else. Okay, you get completely immersed in his consciousness, and then from there he takes you to the Golok. He sometimes does that. Okay, but sometimes there are pure devotees who come to this world. For them, they don't have to go to another universe to be absorbed in that Krishna consciousness. So they go directly to Golok. Okay, so he is the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Okay, sorry devotees, I have to now jump because I think I don't have much time. So I will go to the next verse. These purports are actually wonderful, but unfortunately we'll have to go. Mai eva mana adhatsva mai buddhim niveshaya nivashishyashi mai eva ata urdhvam na samshaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. Right? How to live with Lord Krishna? Okay, in his consciousness, how to live? You live it, you have to engage your intelligence. You will see in the description, I think it is there in the, most probably in the, I think in the second chapter only, where Lord Krishna is describing that the intelligence is above mind, but mind is actually in the mode of goodness. Intelligence is in the mode of passion. How come it is above mind? The reason why it is because that's again the design of Krishna. We actually came to this world because we wanted to enjoy this world without Krishna. Okay, so we have to engage in material activities. So we have to be very passionate about this world around us. And that's what we wanted. And that is why Krishna designed us like that, where he put our intelligence above mind. Intelligence is actually should be below mind, because it's in the mode of passion. Mind is in the mode of goodness. But he put intelligence above mind, so that if that intelligence gets colored by the knowledge, the material knowledge, then it will use the mind to drive us to sense gratification. Right? So that is how we wanted it. And we cannot blame Krishna for this. We wanted to enjoy this world without Krishna. And that is why Krishna designed us like that. But when we get frustrated, and we spiritualize that intelligence by association with devotees, then we can always live in Krishna. Okay, he says, Lord Krishna says, he will live in me without a doubt. He is saying that must happen. Okay, you will live in me if your intelligence is directed towards me. Atah chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena tato mamichhaptum dhananjaya. My dear Arjun, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. Okay, so in the previous one, that is the best, that's the highest position, engaging intelligence in the mind to Krishna all the time. But some people may not be able to do that. They may not have that spontaneous attachment for Krishna. Right? To dedicate your mind and intelligence to something, you have to be attracted to that thing, to attached to that thing. But people may not have that attachment to Krishna. So then what to do? If you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, okay, because that means deviation means you are still attached to something else other than Krishna, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So when you follow, those regulative principles are such that when you follow them, right, then you automatically develop attachment for Krishna. And then it becomes, that attachment becomes without deviation. Okay, so that is the, if you cannot, fix your mind without deviation, then you follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. That means you have a spiritual master, then you take directions from him, you follow the regulative principles, right? In that way, you worship Krishna. Okay. Abhyasayapi asammarthosi matkarma paramo bhava mat artham api karmani kurvan siddhim avapshashi. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Now for Arjun, it is easy. Krishna is standing before him, he is asking him to fight, Arjuna to fight, so he has to fight. So he is working for Krishna. How do we work for Krishna? Working for Krishna and working for his dear devotees who are preaching Krishna's message is the same thing. Okay. So if they need a lot of help, the dear devotees who are trying to spread the Krishna's message throughout the world, that be peaceful, engage in devotional service, take your mind away from greed and all this anger, lust, greed, and focus on Krishna, you will be happy, right? To spread that message, right, needs a lot of wealth, basically, right? Needs maybe, building temples. So you help them in doing that. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying. Actually, Srila Prabhupada writes that in the purport. So that is how you work for, Krishna in today's world. Athaitadapi asaktosi kartum madhyogam ashrita sarva karma phala tyagam tatah kuru yatatmavan. If, however, so look at Lord Krishna, he's so merciful, right? He is not saying, oh, you have to, engage your mind without deviation. That's it. You cannot do it, then you are on your own. No, I cannot help you. He is not saying that. He is so merciful, because after all, we are all his children, basically. So he's very merciful, he's very compassionate to us. He knows that some people will be able to do it, others will not be able to do this. So then, the next, another path. If they cannot do that, then there's the fourth path, right? So he's giving a lot of options to us. Depending on our nature, or positions, we can take a particular path. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. Right? Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is writing, it is possible there are people who are in difficult situations because of the family situations, because of the religion they're following and all kinds of things. They are not able to wholeheartedly help those to propagate Krishna consciousness, which is the previous verse, or they are not able to practice bhakti yoga, or they are not able to 100% dedicate to Krishna, right? All those will be difficult. So Lord Krishna is saying in that case, do charitable work, give your results to, results of your work. Like, for example, he's saying even nationalism, community work, those are also good, Lord Krishna is saying. Okay. If you do that, then you will become peaceful. Okay. And slowly, slowly, those obstacles, all those obstacles, what you're thinking are actually obstacles of the mind, they will go away. And you will come closer to me. He will create the situation so that you come closer to Lord Krishna. Okay. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat jnanat dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phala tyagas tyagat shantir anantaram. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. Better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Now, Lord Krishna is giving a fifth option. But even if you cannot do that also, okay, then because, because of the not only the family problems, it is quite possible that he doesn't have wealth. How can he help, right? So he's saying in that case, you engage in cultivation of knowledge. Okay, the knowledge which, not any kind of knowledge, but the knowledge which tells you that the distinction between the spirit and matter and how you are actually a spirit soul. That knowledge. Okay. And then you engage better than knowledge. Once you gain that knowledge, you engage in the meditation on that spirit soul. Better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. Why? Because when we have wealth, we think of protecting the wealth. We think of multiplying the wealth. That engages a lot of our energy. It always disturbs us. So when you renounce that, then you become peaceful. Then you become dependent on Krishna. Then you are able to meditate better on him. Okay. So that is why Lord Krishna is saying, of course, one has to be practical. One has to keep some funds for retirement. But Lord Krishna here is talking about excessive wealth. Okay. That always disturbs us. Okay. And if you have normal wealth, no one will come after you anyway. Okay. So they are not going to disturb you, but you will have enough wealth for your retirement. Okay. So you can keep the body and soul together and focus on Lord Krishna. Right. Advesta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukhasmi santushta satatam yogi yatatma drida nischaya mahi arpita mano buddhi yo mad bhakta same priya. One who is not envious. So now Lord Krishna is describing the qualities of the devotees which attract Lord Krishna. Okay. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. The question then immediately comes, if I look at myself, I have none of these qualities. Okay. So I'm not dear to Krishna. So what to do? The question is now, we are all dear to Krishna, but what Krishna is saying here, these qualities in a devotee are very dear to me. That means what he's trying to say, that how one can achieve these qualities, right? How we can achieve these qualities? One can achieve these qualities by associating with people who are having these qualities. And fortunately for us, in this ISKCON movement, right from Srila Prabhupada, we can see many, many examples. Okay, so we have to aspire to associate with them. more and more. More we associate, even not necessarily we have to physically always associate, even online also, if we associate, we listen to their lectures, right? That itself will help you develop these qualities, because you will associate with their sound, okay, and that will help you develop these qualities. Okay. Yasmano dijate loko lokano dijate chaya harsha bhayodveger muktoya cha me priya. He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. So one of the characters in Mahabharata we see is Yudhishthir Maharaj was like that. And some of these qualities of Yudhishthir Maharaj was also there in Arjun. Bhima was a little bit different, okay? But Arjun had qualities somewhat similar to Yudhishthir Maharaj. He was also very compassionate and all. He was ready to, okay, I don't want to fight. What is the use of fighting? So many people will die, their families will be destroyed. So Yudhishthir Maharaj also had similar conceptions, basically. Okay. So the devotees, they do have this concept. These are not very easy qualities to achieve. It's very difficult qualities to achieve, but when we come closer to people who have these qualities, they are dedicated. The people who are typically dedicated to Krishna consciousness, you will see them, they have these qualities. Okay. There are a lot of examples. If you go to YouTube, online and all, you search for the life the devotees are living. Some of them are going through cancer and all this, and they are so peaceful. They are fine. Okay, fine. Krishna, I deserved it. Krishna gave it to me, like that kind of people. So it is very hard in contrast with people in the world who get totally disturbed when that kind of thing happens to them, right? So we have to associate with people like them. Okay, so we will have less distress. We will learn, how to face life, okay, without anxiety. Anapeksha suchir daksha udasino gata vyatha sarvarambha parityagi yo madbhakta same priya. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. The devotees, they don't think of, engaged in lot of, activities or endeavors, okay, to get a lot of wealth, power, and all that. Okay. They sometimes do it, but do it only, like, for example, they don't build a lot of skyscrapers, but they build temples, so that other devotees can come there and then can engage in offering devotional service to Krishna. Okay, so that kind of activity is acceptable. Okay, but if you are trying to build a temple so that you become very famous, then although you may be building a temple of Krishna, you think it's a devotional service. It is not, actually. There's no difference between that and building a skyscraper. So intention is very important. Lord Krishna is bhavagrahi. He looks at the intention, the bhav you have, the bhav with which you are serving Krishna. It doesn't have to be exceptional. Okay, with your best of ability, your intention is to serve Krishna, so he's pleased. That is what Krishna is looking for. Yo na hishyati na dveshti na sochati na kankshati shubha parityagi bhaktiman yasame priya. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. Okay. So remember, when Lord Krishna is saying auspicious and inauspicious, he is talking in terms of the auspicious and inauspicious things written in the Karma Kanda sections of the Vedas, so that, people avoid it to go to hell. avoid those inauspicious, avoid the auspicious things and they go to hell, or do inauspicious things, or to do auspicious things to go to heaven. Those kinds of things Lord Krishna is talking about. They are not too worried about those things. If for some reason Krishna sends them to hell, then they propagate Krishna consciousness in hell also. Okay, of course it's a very high standard. Okay, but one should not aspire to go to hell. But the Lord Krishna, the point is making, that is not the purpose of these devotees. Okay, the devotees' purpose is to do devotional service. They are not so much particular about what is auspicious and inauspicious. That is what Lord Krishna is saying. Samah satrau cha mitre cha tatha mana pamanayo shitoshna shukha dukheshu samashanga vivarjita tulya ninda stuti mauni santushto yena kenachit aniketa sthiramati bhaktiman me priyo nara. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service, such a person is very dear to me. Just quick clarifications. Who doesn't care for any residence means he is not too attached to any residence. He is ready to move from one residence to another to preach Krishna's message. That is how we interpret, we understand these things are. Okay, it doesn't mean move around in forest. That is not very practical in today's day. Or always silent doesn't mean he's doing this Mauna Vrat. No, it means he's silent about talking nonsense about this material world. Whenever he speaks about Krishna and his pastimes and his dear devotees. That is what it means. Ye tu dharmamritam idam yathoktam paryupasate shraddhadhana matparama bhaktastetiva me priya. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Okay. So this imperishable path means he is actually talking about the things he started saying from, I think, verse 13th and 14th. Okay. This is what he's talking about, right? This is the state of those devotees, and Lord Krishna is very, very pleased with them. Okay, and is very, very dear to him. Now, at least I can say from none of these actually apply to me. I have a lot of bad qualities, but I know that if I associate with the devotees who have these qualities, then someday I can aspire to have these qualities, and then that will preach Krishna, and Krishna will take care of me. Okay, and Lord Krishna is saying in one of the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita is when you take to this devotional service, then it is like a fan which is running and you turn off the switch. Okay, it is still running, right? But sometimes it stops. So our past karma will take some time to burn when we are doing this devotional service. And when it will completely burn, then we'll naturally have all these qualities. Okay. And then we'll be very dear to Krishna, and then he will become the swift deliverer of us from this material world, which is full of sins. So I will now stop here. We went past 4 minutes. Any final questions or comments or feedback? And after that, we'll close the session.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Prabhu, I really like the point that the impersonal liberation is based on peace, but Krishna consciousness is based on ecstasy.
Yes.
That was really nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Yes, because that is the nature of the soul, and that is why the impersonal is cannot remain in that state of peace, because peace is absence of activity. That is the peace. but it's nature of the soul to get engaged in activity. So if you don't know something higher, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so you again get engaged in material activity. That is why impersonalists, they fall down again. But those who are engaged in the natural activity, nature of soul, okay, which is like engaged in activity and get pleasure, that is basically the devotional service. And because that is permanent, you get pleasure and it never stops. So it is more aligned with the nature of the soul, devotional service. But thank you, Prabhu, for bringing that up again. Okay. Thank you, dear devotees. Let me quickly check if there is any other online comment. Guys, we'll close this. Okay. Don't have anything here. Okay, we don't have here anything. So, dear devotees, we will now close this session.
His Grace Ashraya Madhav Prabhu ki jai.
His Grace Srila Prabhupada Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Dear devotees, everyone, thank you for joining. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Ki jai.